And it is time for episode number 5 of the Justapod podcast. My name is Craig Bowen, and we're joined by seventh year head coach over at West De Pere. It's Todd Deschane joining us on the Justapod. Hey, coach, thanks for catching up with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, Craig. I really appreciate the coverage and the chance to talk with you guys.
Yeah, you kick off the season last night with a nice little victory over an FVA team, the Hortonville Polar Bears, a comfortable 56-38 victory to kick off your season. I'm going to change gears here just a little bit. I got to bring up the sport of football. Congratulations to the Phantoms, a state champion in football. What a year. And I know you got a lot of football guys on your team. There's at least 6 that are going to see significant playing time on the hardwood this winter. Thoughts on that championship? I know you love to see guys have success no matter what the sport is. Just your initial thoughts, and boy, what a great victory! What a great year for that Phantom football program.
Yeah, for sure. That's the benefit of being at a school where our kids get to participate in multiple sports. That's really important and in the development of the young man and young person in general. So I'm really fortunate and glad for those guys that got that opportunity and put all their efforts into, going all the way to state and then coming out victorious and being champions. That's just a really great testament to their character and their work ethic that they put in. Those guys during the summertime, they're up at 5:30 and they're at school by 5:45. They're getting their workouts in, and then they have their, we have a school-wide strength training program Monday through Thursday, but they're with the large numbers of the football program. We have over 100 and some kids in the football program, 9 through 12. So with that number of kids, those kids all come in and they get their workouts in, and then we have our open gyms then at 8 o'clock in the morning after that, contact days. And so those guys would go to football workouts at 6 o'clock in the morning and then right to basketball at 8 o'clock. So, it's just the joy of being a coach in a school where you have athletes that are multi-sport athletes. That's a beautiful thing, because in today's day and age, a lot of kids are just going away from that chance to play in multiple sports and go and specialize in one. And we're fortunate. I don't ever complain about a football team's success because they're all of our athletes. So we take them and we work with them no matter what sport they do. So really happy and glad for those guys that they had that success that they did this season.
Yeah, you bring up that specializing in individual one sport type of athletes. Never used to be that way, but all the experts and a lot of your pro athletes, you take guys like Aaron Rodgers, I don't care who you're talking about, name an NFL player, they, for the most part, all played multiple sports. And I think even the doctors will tell you it's not good to play the same sport almost year round. It's hard on the body indeed. But yeah, what a run for the Phantoms football team. And now you hope, as a basketball coach, some of that momentum carries over to your basketball program. And obviously, you're going to have about 6 guys or so that are going to play a lot of hoops for you this year, including the quarterback, Patrick Grayson, unbelievable football season, great all-around athlete. The biggest news at West De Pere, I think, in the offseason before the football championship was the fact that the Phantoms are no longer playing in the Bay Conference. Let's talk about that. You win the Bay Conference championship last year, and I really like this move. I think it really is a great move for your school and for the conference. You move to the FRCC. Just your initial thoughts on going away from the Bay Conference after so many years.
Yeah, when I came in a few years ago, 7 years ago as a coach, we were starting to talk about the possibility of the movement and everything like that, requesting to move. We were growing population-wise at West De Pere. We were once one of the kind of similar size schools to the rest of the Bay Conference, New London and Seymour and everything like that. All of us were right around the 600 to 800 range, and then we've continuously grown. In my 19 years here, I started when I came here, we were at 675. And I think at our September count this year, we're at like 1050. So we've grown 400 kids in the 19 years. And, demographics wise, I think it's just a really good fit for us, moving into the FRCC. We're getting back together with our former old Bay teams, of Ashwaubenon, Bayport,
Yes.
here, Pulaski, and everything like that. We've had a relationship with all of those schools throughout the years. When we were in the Bay, we'd play non-conference games against them. So pretty familiar with a lot of them. And obviously with that familiarity, you can build it on a sense of confidence. You're not coming completely out of the dark, not knowing who you're going to be facing and those kind of things. So we're really looking forward to the challenge because we're pretty similar to all of them. There's going to be some that are bigger, obviously, still like Bayport and De Pere, are going to have 400, 500 or 800, 900 more kids than we do. But that's just the nature of the beast, and we'll just take that challenge and go with it, and really like that opportunity that
Yeah.
we got.
Yeah, it definitely makes the conference stronger. There's no question about that. I think that De Pere West De Pere rivalry now will have a little bit different tone to it. Obviously, being a conference matchup. But let's talk about your ball club a little bit. I always like to talk about what you lost, and obviously, you lose a lot. No question about that. And when you're a talented ball club, guys graduate. That's what happens. And we lead off with Bryce Borowitz, a 6 foot guard, very fundamentally sound player, 11 points a game last year for you. Your son, Easton, graduates. Riley Kraft, really good off guard for you guys, 6'2", averaged 8 points, 5 rebounds, did a little bit of everything. And then, unfortunately, a transfer situation. Trafe Rodemaker ends up moving on and going to a prep school down in the Delafield area. Maybe just talk about those losses and then right into your new roster, if you will, and talk about how you replace those 4 bodies.
Sure. Obviously the senior leadership with Riley and Easton and Bryce, and our other senior was Colin Jindra, who was a starter. And then last year, we talked with him, and, it's not always a popular decision, but we moved him from starting role to a bench role coming off the bench. And he took it right in stride and was a great teammate and a great leader in all those capacities. Sometimes as a senior, if that ever happens, some people don't necessarily like that, and they might have a sour attitude about it, and then be kind of a bad teammate in a sense, and not really be great for your overall team culture. But Colin really handled that really well. And then the other 3, their playing capabilities, their athleticism, and Bryce's skill level, being super high with being such a good shooter that he is those 3 or those 4. The loss is going to be felt, but I'm excited, for them, because those guys were Bryce and Easton were our captains for 2 years, their junior and senior year. So we lose some leadership there, but the new guys coming into being the leaders for us this year, I'm looking forward to how that's going. And then obviously Treff's transfer, to the prep school. He was 17 points, 10 rebounds. Obviously, those statistical figures are going to be tough to fill. You're going to probably have to fill it with 2 people instead of just 1. So it's a question of, guys learning new roles because, Patrick came off the bench last year. Cooper Borowitz came off the bench, guys that are going to be playing for us a lot of minutes this year. So it's time for them now to step up and get their shot at playing and moving into those spots. And, we'll have to figure out, how to kind of compensate for that loss of Treff's points and rebounds. But I'm really excited for the guys that we do have coming back this year because they're just a great group of young men and they're really working hard. And, I'm excited for our ability to defend. We're going to have the ability with those 5 guys to basically defend across the board. We're not going to have to really worry too much about switching. If we do have a switch that has to occur or whatever the case might be, we'll be able to guard that because we'll have guys that can guard 1 through 5. We're not going to have to worry like all our matchups, like, oh, that's not going to be a good situation to switch out of or whatever if that were to occur. So, that starts off with, Carson Sampson coming back. Carson was, as a sophomore last year, we moved him into the starting lineup in our De Pere game last year. I think that was our second game. And then he started the rest of the season, and he was the point guard. So he distributed the basketball. He was good when he was open on, kickouts to the corner and everything like that. So, he grew and he learned, and we knew that with the younger guy. You're going to take some lumps sometimes with those guys, and you got to roll with it sometimes. And we're happy that he progressed along, and he's really continued to work on his game and get better over the off season. So he's kind of in our point guard role this year and moved into it and slotted over really well. Patrick coming from football, Patrick's always been a really good player. We've had him moved up since his freshman year here in high school. So he's been on the varsity team all 4 years, and has continuously grown. He's a player that, sometimes when he gets rolling, you just got to kind of sit back and let it roll because he's that type of player. And then sometimes when it's not falling the way it should be, or you hope that it falls, you got to take that too with him as well. But he's that type of player that once he gets rolling, it can go fall in a hurry. And so we're really excited for him to take on. And, he came into basketball and we were just talking, and just because of his quarterback skills and everything like that from football, it transfers over to basketball really well. And he immediately said, I want to be captain. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'm a leader, and he's been a great leader for us out on the court. We did some stuff in practice where we didn't really work on many things because those guys coming in from football, the state championship game was on the 21st on that Friday. Well, that was a full week into the start of the season. So
Yes.
those guys were still playing football on that Friday. And then they came back, and we had practice on Monday, Tuesday of the holiday week there. And then we had off on Wednesday. And those guys came back, and I just told them, I said, I want you guys to take a week off to let your bodies kind of recoup and kind of regenerate yourselves a little bit. And then they came to practice, and they were there part of practice, mental repping and just getting some shots up, not really doing a whole lot, movement wise. And once they were good to go, then we had practice on Saturday morning, the Thanksgiving weekend there. And we went Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and we played on Tuesday, and they were out there. So
Yeah.
it's a testament to those guys, that just the nature of the beast. We got to roll. And then as a coach, you got to consider, what's important to get them out there and play a lot, or do we just get them out there to get their feet underneath them a little bit? And those, Cooper and Patrick, especially coming from the football end, they played a lot because they're going to be playing a lot this year. So their bodies were all good and they felt fine. We subbed them in and out. We felt a couple times like, okay, all right, let's get them a break and let's get them in and then get them out, and trying to teach them the pace that we want to play, and them accepting it and rolling with it. So that was really fun to see. And Patty stepped right into that leadership role for us. So I was really happy there. Cooper is just an all around great young man and great player. He does so many of all the little things, the intangible things. He's
Yeah.
a really great defender, and that shows from his football playing ability too as well. He's a super defender on the football field. He's that prototype safety that a lot of programs in that will look for. And then basketball wise, that length that he has at 6'3", 6'4", he's going to be a really good contributor for us this year again. And he's a junior year now, so he's more mature physically and everything like that. Whereas the last 2 years, I think we brought him up based on his skill level, but physicality wise, not quite fully ready. But now he's physically fit and he's a really strong man for us there. So looking forward to him coming back too as well. And he stepped into a leadership role. He's a really good vocal leader for us. And so with him and Patrick, Patrick more of the offensive side, Cooper more of the defensive side, we got a lot of things covered with those two in leadership roles.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the football season, the way it went. I talked to Coach Rickle from Bayport. Same situation, right? They make it to the championship game. And that was kind of one of my questions I was going to get into is, yeah, it's kind of a fine line. How much time do you give these guys? Obviously, they're behind the eight ball a little bit. They're not shooting baskets. They're pitching around the pigskin. So you got to kind of play it from a coaching standpoint, especially preseason, so to speak, right? You're not into your conference schedule yet. So you have the affordability to kind of ease these guys in, I would think, a little bit early on.
Correct. And last night we were fortunate, we built a big enough lead then too as well with those guys that we were then able to substitute some guys later on in the game and get them some more meaningful minutes and that, that gave them real game-like situations. So hopefully down the road that pays off and is a benefit for us as well.
I want to talk about this kid because when I covered Xavier and Westapod, and I've been doing it for a while, I'm going to miss that matchup, by the way. Those were always some great basketball games. But this kid right here, 6'6", he's listed. I just love this kid, a junior, and I know you do too. Jack Wilichowski, 11 points last night. This guy's got size, athleticism. He does a lot of different things. Talk about his game and really how he could be part of maybe a two-man operation to try to make up for Rodemaker's lost points and rebounds.
Yeah, Jack is a special athlete in the basketball world. He's got that good size combination. His build is like the perfect basketball build, as a coach that you could wish for your players to have. Him and Cooper have that similar lean, long kind of build
Yep.
and strength wise. And last year, Jack started to play with us as the season progressed along. As a sophomore, he was a little bit weaker physically wise. He wasn't as strong, so he had to work on widening his base and getting lower and being able to handle punishment and pounding in the paint where he was guarding a lot of guys, and then he had the benefit of going against Treff on a daily basis as well, who was 6'9" at the time as well. So he really learned and, took his punches on the ropes, but, stood up and kind of stayed with it. And over the summer and work time, he's really stepped up. He's a tremendous soccer player as well. So he comes
Interesting.
in as a leader from the soccer on the varsity soccer team, since his freshman year as well. So he's always been in the varsity kind of cauldron in a sense. So he understands the speed and the pace that all the programs want to play in and go at. So really looking forward to him stepping in. When we were talking prior to the games and everything like that, we talked with the players about roles and all that. And he said, I want to look forward to just stepping out right now and getting after it and being a leader. And he's done a really good job with the leadership role. So, I talked about the leadership that Patrick and Cooper have portrayed. Jack is right there with him, and he's one of our captains as well. So really happy with how he's progressed and continue to look forward to watching him play. He's so fun to watch. He just gets out there, and teams run pick and rolls and stuff like that. He's able to guard a guard for a while, because he's athletic and he's really long. So he uses what God's given him, his natural ability and body frame, and then also his athletic ability too, to be able to guard people.
And unfortunately, you did have an injury, and it is a senior, and he chooses to do labrum surgery. Unfortunately, Mason Werner, a kid that I would imagine he would have been a key contributor this year, but he will be gone and lost from a football injury. I guess talk about that a little bit. And then I guess Eric Bouchard, who started last night, a senior, talk about his game. But let's talk about Mason and that injury and how unfortunate that is for a senior to go down like that.
Yeah, you always hate to see a guy go down. And Mason was one of those guys, obviously, that's been with us for the last 4 years as well. And when we talked during the football season, he got dinged up a little bit with the surge or with the shoulder, but he continued to play. But he had a tough time raising his arm up like this. Well, if you're a basketball player and you're a righty, raising that arm up to shoot, and so that really weighed in on his decision, and he really felt like he couldn't do it, and so he thought about trying to wear a brace, but just wouldn't guarantee anything like that. So he opted to have his procedure done on his shoulder here coming up in about a week here, or I think next week is when he's got that scheduled to go. So that's going to take him out for 3 to 4 months. So
Yeah,
just
that's a tough
decided
one.
that just to hang it up because he couldn't really come back, and stand around at practice because of the immobility for a while with the shoulder and all
Sure.
those things. And we talked about that too. Did he want to, still be part of it in a way? And he said, I would love to, but I don't know if I will right away. And so that's just going to be really even more tough. So
Yep.
unfortunately, for him and his sake, his last year of basketball, which he's put a lot of time into as well and been a great contributor and would have been one of those guys that would have stepped up this year for us as well. He was unable to go.
Yeah, unfortunately, injuries part of the game, obviously. And then Eric Bouchard, talk about him. He got the start last night, 6 foot senior. Talk about his role this year and what your expectations are for him.
Eric's Eric's one of our more quiet, kind of reserved type of guys, but he's probably going to be one of the kids that you'll hate to play against, kind of deal. He just gets after it and does it quietly and works his butt off. He's always worked his butt off. He's been relatively small, throughout his life, and then I mean he's only 6 feet tall on a really good day now, but he plays taller than 6 feet tall. He's a really good athlete. The last 2 years now, he's come into his own, almost like a late bloomer in a sense, athletically, and we can put him out there on the best teams or the other team's best player, and we're not afraid at all of how he's going to guard him. We can go interchangeably with Carson and him on those better players, the guard spots, and they'll get after it and get after those guys and really pressure them. So we're really excited for how Eric is doing things, and he he has been an exceptional leader for us all summer long too, as well, being at everything that he can be contact day wise. When we were going June through July, so he really put in a great amount of time and effort and has stepped right up in. And he's also one. We have 4 captains this year: the 2 seniors and 2 juniors, and he's the other captain that we have, and he's more of the lead by example kind of guy. So he
Yep.
fits that role really well. He's got a really good pulse of the team. He's a good locker room guy. So as a coach, that's really important to have too, as well, to have those guys that are going to be in control of the locker room too, as well. So really looking forward to what he's going to do for us.
Visiting with head coach Todd Deschane from West De Pere today, episode 5 of Justapod. And they got off to a tremendous start last night, 56-38 over Hortonville. Next up is Monday, going to be a matchup against another power team, if you will, out of the FVA, the Kimberly Papermakers. That'll be a great challenge for you guys. I'm sure that will be a home game matchup. Real quickly, some other guys in your rotation, if you want to just touch on these guys briefly. A junior, 6'4", Sam Schmidt. We have a 6'1" junior, Brady Eggert. And we have a 6'2" senior, Bryce DeClean. Talk about the role these guys are going to have off the bench this year for your ball club.
Yeah, they all have vital roles for us coming off the bench. Sam is your he's a big boy. He's I would venture to guess he's probably 6'5" now, and he's probably close to 270 pounds. And it's not a overly big 270 pounds. He's well put together. Really loves football. He's a tremendous left tackle for our football program. So he comes in, and the correlation of basketball and football goes together so well. And he's a big guy. So we like to play him and get him into the post, and then he can do some footwork. He's got really great feet, you know. So he's fun to coach. He's just a really good kid. And sometimes I jokingly say to him, hey, you're a big man, and so you're just going to be a victim of circumstance. Guys are just going to bounce off you, and you're going to get fouls called against you. And you know
Yeah.
what? You got 5 of them. You're going to be coming off the bench. You're going to be a spot kind of player. Are you okay with that? And he's like, yeah. And he's a great guy. He's another guy that has the control of the locker room too, as well. Everybody just is drawn to him. He's just a jovial kind of young man, and he's really good for our team. And so, really glad that he's out with us this year, because he was thinking, like, okay, should I focus on the football aspect and everything like that? And we talked, and and we're like, hey, you can do so many different things. And we talked about the multi-sport kind of components as well that so many colleges and programs look for. And he was a decision right at the end after we talked with him during the week. He's like, "Yep, I'm coming out." All right, cool. Well, see you on Saturday, you know. And then he
Yep.
was there Monday through Tuesday when they were at there while they were shooting around. And this is a great young man to have around. Um, Bryce DeClean, our senior there. Bryce is a guy that's kind of put in the time throughout his 4 years of high school and just is really a really hardworking young man. He gets after it. He plays super hard. He's the type of kid that you can ask to run through a brick wall and he'll probably run through, come back out and say, "Can I do it again?" He's just that kind of kid. He
Yeah.
has that mentality. He's a glue guy. He does all the little things for us. And so we really are appreciative of all of his efforts that he gives us out on the team and the minutes that he puts out on the court for us there. Brady Eggert, Jr. comes in kind of in our point guard role. He's a really long. He's got that long, lean body type too as well. So we really like that when he comes out there because he's learning. He came off the JV team last year, so it's a matter now of figuring out the space and pace that the varsity team plays at. Not that he couldn't do it. It's just a matter of now. Okay, well, let's put all of that together and then put it out on the court. And so he's coming in and he does provide us with really good minutes off the bench. And, you know, we can't all be like stars always. I like to talk with the guys about their roles, but we can star in our roles. And Brady is doing
Yes.
a really good job of starring in that role, coming in at the kind of backup guard position. We put him in for Carson and we put him in for Eric, and he can fill that role for us really well. So that's a good little rotation for him there.
Yeah, it's not who starts the game sometimes, right? It's who finishes the game. And bench player starter doesn't matter, right? That loose ball, that 50-50 ball, that ball doesn't care if you're a starter or a reserve, right? It
Correct.
all adds up the same and counts towards wins. Let's finish up here. Coach Deschane, glad you could have the time today on the Justapod. By the way, you can follow Phantom Hoops on X or Twitter, as I like to say yet. So it's at Phantoms Hoops if you want to give them a follow this year. Let's follow up and talk a little bit more. We briefly mentioned the conference earlier that you're switching from the Bay to the Fox River Classic. You know, De Pere's just been so dominant over, I don't even know how many years. You know, Coach Winchester's just done a tremendous job over there. Everybody's chasing De Pere, it seems like. Maybe not so different this year. But talk about the power teams in this conference, and obviously De Pere and Bayport come to mind, but just give us your quick little overview, not asking for predictions or anything like that, but just talk about this FRCC and how it stacks up this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great challenge for us, and we're looking forward to that challenge moving into the conference as the new guys. And we've talked about it, you know, I mean, everybody is not going to care who we are. They're not going to care that we're Division II football champions or anything like that. They're not going to care. So we got to go in and we got to earn the respect and we got to go play our game and play the way that we know how to play. And so we're really looking forward to that opportunity this year and moving into the conference. You know, De Pere has obviously been the gold standard for quite a while in the conference, you know, with their success that they've had and the players that have come through there. So Coach Winchester has done an incredible job. You know, Nate and Coach Rickle at Bayport, they're going to be a really tough team this year. You know, that's going to be a battle this year. And again, you know, I jokingly like to say we're going to be two football type teams playing in basketball uniforms against each other.
Yes,
It's just always been a knockdown slugfest between us over the years when we played them in the non-conference games in the past. So that's always a fun battle to have. And now we get to do it twice a year instead of just once. So we're looking forward to those challenges. Sheboygan North has always been competitive and strong in the
for
conference
sure.
as well. You know, so that's going to be a really good challenge for us and all the rest of the schools, you know, that are out there. You know, we're familiar with all of them and we're looking forward to competing against all of them.
Yeah, speaking of Bayport, they got a walk-off three-pointer from one of their new kids, a transfer, AJ Ivy,
Yeah.
knocked down a big three at the buzzer to knock off Spash last night. So right off the bat, it did not take long for the Bayport Pirates to find some success on the hardwood this year with a very good basketball team. But yeah, it should be a great, exciting basketball season once again. And Coach Deschane, thank you so much for your time. Good luck against Kimberly coming up. And then obviously, as you get into the FRCC schedule, have a great season, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
All right, head coach Todd Deschane joining us, episode number 5 of Justapod. And we'll have another one for you soon. It's going to be Andy Brunell, head girls basketball coach for the Neenah Rockets. Looking forward to that one. So until next time, my name is Craig Bowen. I want to thank Todd Deschane once again for joining us. And we'll catch up with you the next time. Episode 6 it'll be of Justapod. Thanks, everybody.